Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Cox. I was born in 1979 on Hahn Air Base in Germany, which at the time was a U.S. base on British soil in German territory. I know that this can sound a little confusing, so allow me to explain. At the time, there was a dividing source between West and East Germany called the Berlin Wall. That stretched for almost 96 miles throughout Germany. Hahn Air Base, the British Air Base, was founded on U.S. soil, which was in the west part of Germany, or known as the Federal Republic of Germany. Hahn was located right outside Kirchberg. Since the deconstruction of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the Hahn Air Base in 1994, it has now been developed into Frank Hahn Airport. I'm currently working on a double major for Systems Information Security and Network and Routing, with a minor in Cybersecurity and Cybersecurity Forensics. Once I have achieved my goal, I plan to follow through with acquiring a job in Cybercrime Security Section. Some of my personal interests are working on personal computers, building them and repairing them from the bare bones. I also like traveling the world as well as visiting different countries. I recently came back from a trip in Iceland and I learned a lot about that culture. My family tree is a mixture of Scottish, Irish, English, German, and American. I love learning about different cultures and experiencing new things. To follow up with my English side of the family, I do celebrate Boxing Day. Boxing Day is a celebrated holiday after Christmas. This tradition follows back to the early Victorian era in England, when wealthier people would give the scraps of food to hired help and put those leftovers in a box and allow the hired help to take it home to their families for something to eat. Since this food was hard to come by for most people in the lower class, scraps were not turned away. In remembrance of the families that suffered during that time, and to be thankful for what we have, the Boxing Day tradition is carried on in my family. This, of course, was the tip of the iceberg about me. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to know more about me, feel free to ask. And I thank you for your time in getting to know whom David Cox is.
Based on your description, you have a varied background. Do you speak other languages?
No, I don't speak any other languages. I know a few words from Iceland, from Japan, from Germany, and Turkey, where I've been to. I know a few words. I don't know too many, though.
Okay. And the tradition of the boxing tradition, okay, back then it was scraps. What are you using now?
Now it's basically a traditional Thanksgiving meal, you know, like ham, turkey, all that stuff. But it's just a remembrance of that carries on.
You traveling and being at different places, what was your favorite country that you visited?
So far, my favorite country would have been Iceland so far. The views were just magnanimous. It was awesome to see that. Beautiful countryside. The water was pure clean, coming straight out of the tap. Smelled like sulfur, but when you drink it, it's better than our drinking water we have here in the States. You could drink it all day long. It's awesome.
And after you get your degree, have you looked at like what businesses you wanted to work, like who you wanted to work for? You have any idea of places?
Some of the businesses that I want to work for, maybe like the FBI or CIA, get into the cybercrime sections. Once you get a Security Plus section, you can pretty much go anywhere you want. Jobs are opening up all the time, and with cybercrimes happening all the time, there's multiple potentiality everywhere.
Having such a varied background, have you ever thought of maybe not living here in the States and going back to live in Iceland or any of the other European countries you named?
Yes, I have thought about going back to England or even Iceland. Problem is, it's that getting that citizenship is the only problem. In Iceland, not that many people speak English. They do take classes for English, but as you get further out to the countryside, nobody speaks English and they have no idea what you're saying. So when your next door neighbor is like 7 kilometers away and you're injured somewhere that doesn't speak English, you're pretty much on your own.
What about in Iceland? You said you enjoyed the views and the imagery and so forth. How did you experience the culture?
With the culture, I went to a traditional wool making shop out in the countryside and saw how they handcrafted wool straight from the sheep onto, I think they called it a pelling machine, that basically pulls the yarn off of the lamb, or once they have the lamb clumped up, or the hair, and they spin it and wind it up onto a spool. And it's all done by pedal, as well as how they used to cook traditional meals like lamb. They wouldn't do chicken, it was mostly lamb and fish. They would dry fish out in the weather, so they would cut it, skin it, hang it on a stick, and leave it out in the barn for about 6 months to let it dry out in the air.
Wow.
You wouldn't salt it?
Some of it, with the lamb, they would salt it. With the fish, they wouldn't. They would dry it out. They actually have a native dish that's called stink shark. And what they would do is basically take the shark, cut it up. If you ate it raw, you would die from it. But the shark, they would basically cut it up into certain portions, hang it on a rack, hang it in a barn, surround it with stones and sticks, and leave it there for about a year to let it just marinate. And then they would chop it up into small cubes like cheese, and then you eat it from there.
Wow.
It was horrible.
And,
oh my God.
I visited Berlin in '79. I was stationed in Germany during that time, and it was a very tense situation back then. But Berlin itself was magnificent.
Mm-hmm.
Have you gone back to Berlin as an adult at all?
No, I haven't been back to Germany yet. The only parts I remember mostly were just in the childhood when I was living on the Air Force Base. When they did bring down the Berlin Wall, I remember touching it and grabbing a chunk of it, but I don't remember what happened to the stone or the rock that I took from the monument.
Now, before your speech, you said you had extended family in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the UK, and when do you plan on going back?
I plan on going back to the UK probably either the end of this year or the beginning of next year. I have aunts, uncles, and cousins that live over there in Portsmouth, Portchester, West Sussex, which is about an hour south of London, mostly in the Sea Harbor area.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Yeah, wow.
Get a video of the crowd.